Good afternoon, everybody. I'm an Australian who's been living here in Minsk, Belarus for almost 2 years. And today I want to share with you some things that I didn't expect to see from Belarus. Because look, I didn't do my research yet. All I knew is that Belarus was open during COVID. The football league played. It was the only football league to play in 2020. So that's kind of all I needed to know, essentially. At that point in my life, given where I was living and what was happening, I was like, okay, Belarus it is, right? So I get to Belarus. Probably 4 or 5 things really stand out to me that I wasn't expecting. One was the thing that everyone notices, is just the sheer volume of attractive women. Slim, it's decent, slim, long hair, dressing in a very kind of girly way, often very sexualized way. I didn't expect to see such a volume like this, to be honest. I knew it was Eastern Europe, so I had the 101 stereotypes of Russia in my head, but I didn't know it would be this much different. So anyway, that's the first thing I noticed, and you'll see this on my videos. It's something that's easy to determine, right? And these things for me, look, they're not worth much. Let me turn you around. Like honestly, this kind of stuff, if you can see it yourself firsthand quickly, it's not worth that much, right? Because you can tell. Actually, let me just turn this off and restart. Give me a moment. All right, let's go. So yeah, first thing, this quality of women. I mean, I guess they just don't eat so much, right? They just eat like a normal amount of food, essentially. That's the main difference, really. They maybe grow their hair and wear some clothes that flatter their appearance. This is probably the key to it. Genetics themselves probably aren't that superior or different to, a lot of Western European genetics, to be fair. That's number one. Number two, really surprised at how feminist the place is. Like the sense of individualism here is so strong. It's really quite amazing. I didn't realize that the Soviets had done such a thorough re-engineering of the culture to make it so feminist. And young women really have zero interest in family creation, getting married, men in general, They're not zero. Zero is overstating it, obviously, but a lot less than you would think. Close to zero. It depends on the girl, obviously, but certainly a lot different to how you would imagine it, right? Everyone thinks, if the girls look good, it must mean that they're traditional. But no, not the case. Traditional, Stalinist, feminist, communist, because that's the underlying culture here, right? They still retain some of their original culture on some level, and there's obviously liberalism, Western liberalism in here as well, but they're not really a Christian base necessarily. There's some Christianity here, but from a gender relation perspective, there's not. Yep. So yeah, surprised how feminist the country is. But I guess you can tell that just from looking at basic data. I mean, if the divorce rate is higher here than the West, yet it's a lot poorer than the West, that's telling you something, right? Because usually the richer a country is, the more divorce there is. But here it's higher. It's the other way around. So that tells you a lot about the mentality of the people here and how it works. And how it's not uncommon to have several marriages. And often women, often they have their marriage and they just don't date again, or barely date again. Like, such as their lack of interest in men relative to many other countries in the world. So it's kind of what happens. So I was surprised how feminist it is. Again, people get tricked by the appearance and they infer a whole lot of other qualities onto these women, which simply aren't the case. Especially for, the under 30s. Maybe if you get, if you're an older guy, you're a boomer tradcon, you come here and get your Soviet princess who's 45, divorced. Yeah, she might still have some of this, character. Or she's, probably just being pragmatic and realizing that if she does all this stuff, you'll pay for everything. That's just kind of how it is as well, right? A little bit. But also, they took a lot of blue pill, Disney fantasy love stuff here as well, yeah? This kind of exists here a little bit. And that's a bit of the problem, actually, because you have this intense feeling of love when you get together and that wears off. And the girl's like, I don't love you anymore, see ya. This is kind of what we see. We don't see this kind of long-term idea of getting together, having a family, and it doesn't really matter. And that sense of staying together for the kids to give them a better outcome, that doesn't seem to exist much here either, versus the West. So I didn't expect this at all. Really surprised that the basic stereotypes we have in this part of the world are just not even fucking close, to be quite frank. The third thing that I really didn't expect here was the hyper politeness, the surface level hyper politeness. It's way more than I was expecting. In fact, I wasn't expecting it at all. I was expecting, if anything, a little bit of, that Russian brashness. Yeah, that you might get in a third tier Russian town. But until you get to a third tier Russian town here, you sure as hell won't find anything like that. You get this over-the-top politeness, this over-the-top surface-level politeness and social etiquette rules that everyone runs by. And as a result, you can look around for yourself, right? Everything's so bloody clean. Nothing's broken. Everything's clean. Excuse me. No one's yelling. Like, you'll never hear anyone yelling here, even talking loudly. The other day I was on a bus with my buddy. We were going out to this, I don't know, you'd call it like a real life museum, I guess you'd call it. And we were talking fairly loudly, and this babushka poked me in the ribs with her umbrella, telling me to shut up. I was breaking the local rules a little bit, Kind of funny. Well, contrast is interesting. So yeah, this kind of strict surface level politeness, etiquette, Soviet etiquette that's here. Now look, Russians have it a bit too, just not to this extreme level. They have a lot more volatility in their behaviour, whereas here they don't share that volatility anywhere near as much. So that's three things. Give me another one. I'm surprised at how, well, I've kind of half said this already, but how clean it is. It's very clean. And also it's quite well organised. Now, of course, some of the bureaucracy is shit as, and a real pain in the arse. Well, it could be worse. Like, Russian bureaucracy is fucking 10 times worse. But here it's still pretty bad in a lot of ways. But in some things, it's brilliant. It's like the punctuality of, buses and trains and this kind of stuff. I mean, it's like living in friggin' Germany or Japan or something, you know what I mean? It's got this element of it, which is surprising. I don't know how or why, but maybe it's seen as a politeness thing as well. It's like you got to be on time because that's what you're supposed to do, and blah blah blah. And the trains always, like, even when the trains stop, there's this kind of etiquette of politeness where the trains stop and they just leave the doors open for longer than they need to make sure everyone's getting in and out. And it's just like everyone's just standing there waiting for the doors to shut, but they'll just leave it open for that little bit extra longer time. This is kind of the mentality and this pattern of behaviour that plays through in a lot of situations here. So it's kind of not just clean, but also very organised in a lot of ways. And around here, you'll know this is the student dorms around here, if you know this area. And just almost always there's someone mowing something. Whippersnippering, mowing something. It's like a lot of the GDP here is put into just general appearance and attractiveness of the place. And for some reason it works. But the money put in actually gets results, you know what I mean? That's what you get here. So definitely the appearance of the girls, surprising. Partly surprising. The feminist nature of the girls here, and just the feminist nature of the society. It is, I would call it, slightly matriarchal here. Not super matriarchal, a bit. Third thing was the super politeness. There's a real, and we kind of joke that, some of the foreigners and I joke that it's like talking to AI when you talk to Belarusians, and you really never know if they like you or not. Not until you've seen them 10 or 15 times, you might get a bit of a sense if they do or don't. Because they just act like this kind of robotic photocopy kind of behaviour. That's, every culture has that on some level, right? Of course. Every culture has this on some level. We need to get along, mate. Shit. But here it's just a level of roboticness that I've never seen before. And then finally, just clean and organised. Every one of my videos, you can go back and watch them all. Feel free. And this is what it looks like. Like even there, you can see the grass there. Look at my finger. So there's like a bit overgrown. You wouldn't see that very often. I'll give it the tip. You won't see that very often at all. It's only because it's like been very sunny and rainy for the last 2 or 3 weeks. It's had this mixture of sun and rain constantly. So perfect kind of weather for the grass to grow really quickly. So I think this has kind of maybe thrown out their rhythm a bit. But otherwise, man, it's always immaculate. It's always really immaculate. Now, of course, there are downsides, but today I'll just talk about the expected, unexpected positives, or mainly positives, of Belarus. Let me know what you think. If you've been here, or you live here, or you are Belarusian, do let me know your thoughts.